Facebook continues to be a sensitive and serious issue for employers. Inappropriate posts can constitute grounds for terminating an employee's employment, with another case in the Fair Work Commission alleging unfair dismissal. For more on this decision, what businesses should be doing, we're joined by Joydeep Hoare, Managing Principal of specialist employment law firm People and Culture Strategies. Joydeep, great to see you as always. Yeah, just firstly, take us through what happened in this particular case and the decision.
So a recent decision of the Fair Work Commission, Bridie, where it was found that a manager, an employee of an organisation who had utilised his personal Facebook page to make derogatory comments about a co-worker, he said in jest, albeit that the comments were on any reading quite offensive, they had sexual content in them. There were also some comments made against a particular charitable organisation, which all of which was seen to be in clear breach of the organisation's policies. The employer conducted an investigation, made a decision to terminate this particular employee's employment. He brought an unfair dismissal claim, argued that it wasn't sufficiently connected with work, argued that it was a personal act and conduct that occurred in his private time, and said that it didn't really have any impact on the organisation's business, and all of those things made the termination unfair. None of those arguments resonated with the Fair Work Commission in this particular case, and unsurprisingly, I think, it was found that this dismissal was fair in all of the circumstances.
How significant is the decision then by the Fair Work Commission?
Well, I think what's significant is that this trend has been an ongoing one and has really escalated throughout the course of 2013. The number of cases that the Fair Work Commission has had to deal with involving social media has been at a record level in this particular year. Not surprising, again, in many ways, given that more people probably have access to social media and whatever else. But one of the things that employers need to be very mindful of is even though in this particular case it was found that the dismissal was fair, if you look across all of those decisions, there doesn't seem to be absolute clarity in terms of when an employee is acting in their personal or private time, as opposed to when the employee is engaging in conduct that the employer can action. So in this particular case, you had an employee using his personal Facebook page, doing it in his own time, as opposed to doing it during work time or on the company's Facebook page or any other company-sponsored social media facility. But what the Commission found, and I think what the Commission should continue to find, is that it's not so much about where the conduct occurs and when the conduct occurs. You have to start looking at the holistic way that people's behaviour can impact working relationships. And so regardless of whether you're doing these things on your personal time using your personal Facebook page, employers should have the right to look at whether that conduct impacts working relationships and look at whether that conduct impacts the organisation.
So what advice are you going to give to employees and employers here, and what kind of content should employers make sure is in their social media guidelines or policy?
Well, I think that's the best starting point, that employers must have appropriate policies that make it quite clear that when you're trying to regulate social media use, that you make it explicit that an employee, even though they might have their own social media pages and facilities, is not a free agent and still has to be mindful of compliance with appropriate standards of respect and behaviour that an employer is entitled to enforce through their policies that deal with those kinds of matters. So that's the critical message for employers. And that's got to be followed and accompanied by an appropriate training and education regime. The mere fact of having a policy often brings an employer unstuck if they haven't appropriately educated staff in relation to that. In terms of advice to employees, I think it's a big watch out that an employee thinks that because something they might not be doing, or they might be doing, is not on work time, that somehow they can do whatever they like. I think that's a very dangerous assumption for them to make. Yes, there is a blurring of work and private lives, particularly at this time of year.
Joydeep, I'm sorry, we've got to interrupt there. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to take viewers now to the NAB AGM getting underway in Melbourne. Cameron Klein, CEO there.